The flowers were already in the coolers by 5:30 that morning. Ranunculus, garden roses, eucalyptus. Everything laid out in the walk-in the way I'd done it 1,000 times before. The shop smelled like cold water and greenery. And for a few minutes before we opened, I just stood there in the quiet and let myself feel proud of it. I'd built Petal Thread from nothing. Not nothing, the way people say it when they mean they started with a little help, but worked really hard. I mean nothing. A folding table at the Carp Farmers Market 4 years ago selling mason jar arrangements for $30 each. Sleeping on my friend's couch in Barhaven because I couldn't afford the first and last on an apartment anywhere closer to the city. I mean nothing. By the time my family showed up that Thursday in October, I had a real storefront on Richmond Road, 2 full-time employees, and a contract with a hotel chain that had taken me 18 months to land. I had a commercial cooler, a delivery van with my logo on the side, and a waiting list for wedding packages that stretched into the following spring. I also had 3 years of silence from my brother and my parents. It started the way these things always do, quietly, and then all at once. My brother had been running what he called a landscaping company, which mostly meant he quoted jobs he couldn't finish and borrowed equipment he couldn't return. When he needed $20,000 to cover a debt he'd accumulated with a supplier out of Mississauga, my parents didn't have it. They came to me. I was 26. The shop had been open 8 months. I had maybe $4,000 in savings and a line of credit I was terrified to touch. I told them I couldn't do it. I said I was sorry. I said I hoped they found another way. That was the last real conversation I had with any of them for 3 years. Not entirely true. There were texts. My mother, twice, on my birthday. My father once when my grandmother passed, to tell me the funeral was in Brockville and that I was welcome to attend if I felt it was appropriate. My brother, never. Not once. I sent flowers to the funeral home. I don't know if anyone noticed. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I was fine. I wasn't fine. I cried in my van more times than I can count, usually in parking lots after deliveries. When I had a few minutes alone and the weight of it would catch up with me, I called my friend Maggie so often she started answering with "What did they do now?" Except eventually there was nothing new to report. They had just erased me. The way you delete a contact, the way you pretend someone never existed. And I kept working. I hired my first employee, a woman named Britt who had been doing florals out of her garage in Kanata and needed a steadier income. 6 months later, I hired Felix, who could wire a centerpiece faster than anyone I'd ever seen. We became a real team. I started doing corporate accounts. I got the hotel contract. I moved into a larger space with a proper consultation area and a glass front cooler that ran along the entire back wall. I stopped waiting for my family to come back. Or I told myself I had. I was in the middle of prepping a sympathy order. White lilies, white spray roses, green Pittosporum, the kind of arrangement that has to look peaceful even when nothing feels peaceful. When Britt came back from the front and said, quietly, "There are some people here asking for you. They say they're family." I set down the lilies. I knew before I even walked through the door. Something about the way she said it. The careful flatness in her voice. The way she didn't say, "your family," but "people who say they're family," told me exactly what I was walking into. My father was standing near the consultation table with his arms crossed. My mother was by the cooler, looking at the arrangements the way people look at things when they're trying to seem casual and failing. My brother was near the door, hands in his pockets, not quite meeting my eyes. 3 years, not a call, not a card, not a text message that wasn't about a funeral. "Hey, sweetheart," my father said. I have thought about that moment many times since. The word sweetheart. The ease of it. Like no time had passed. Like I was supposed to feel warm. "Hey," I said. That was all. My mother turned from the cooler. She looked tired in a way I recognized. The specific exhaustion of people who've been managing a situation that keeps getting worse. We should talk, she said. Can we sit down? I looked at the three of them. Behind me I could hear Britt moving quietly in the back, giving us space. Felix wasn't in yet. I said, "You have 10 minutes, I have an order due at 11. We sat at the consultation table. I did not offer them anything to drink. My father put a folder on the table. I looked at the folder on the table. I looked at the folder. I did not touch it. Your brother has a situation, my father said. He's been dealing with some business issues. There are investors, private lenders, and they've called in what he owes. The total is $63,000. I kept my face very still. We've put together what we can, my mother said, but we're short, and the thing is, she glanced at my father, the thing is, we need someone to co-sign a repayment agreement, someone with a stable business, a real asset. Co-sign, I said. It's not complicated, my father said. It just means, I know what co-signing means. Silence. My brother finally looked up. I know this is a lot to ask, he said, but we're out of options. These people aren't. They're not patient, and you've got something real here. He gestured at the shop. You could help us. There it was. You've got something real here. You could help us. After 3 years of being treated like I didn't exist, I had become useful again. How did you get my address? I asked. What? The shop? How did you know where it was? My mother shifted in her seat. We looked you up. Online. Your website. So they'd been watching. At some distance, through a screen for who knows how long. Watching me build something and never once reaching out. Until they needed something from it. I said, I'm not going to co-sign anything. My father's expression changed. Just slightly, a tightening around the eyes. We're not asking you to pay anything, just your name on my name on a repayment agreement makes me liable if he defaults, I said, which, based on everything I know about the situation, is not an unlikely outcome. You don't know the full picture, my brother said. Then tell me, I said. Tell me the full picture. Tell me why, 3 years after you all decided I wasn't worth talking to, I should put my business, my actual livelihood, the thing I built by myself, on the line for a debt I had nothing to do with. Nobody answered. My father opened the folder. He slid a document across the table. There's also the matter of the line of credit, he said, from 2021. I looked at the paper. I felt something go very cold inside me. The document referenced a line of credit, $12,000, opened in 2021, with my name on it, an account I had never opened, a debt I had never agreed to. I looked up at my father. That was taken out to help cover some of the early expenses, he said. We needed something in your name because of the credit situation at the time. We intended to pay it back. You opened a line of credit in my name, I said, without telling me. It was a family decision, my mother said quietly. I wasn't part of that decision, I said. I wasn't part of any decision. I wasn't part of anything. You removed me from this family for 3 years and apparently continued to use my name to borrow money while you were doing it. We kept up the payments, my father said, with the confidence of someone who believes that making payments on a fraudulent account is the same as not committing fraud. Until you didn't, I said. He didn't answer. Which answered everything. The line of credit was in arrears, $1,700 behind, which meant it was showing up on my credit report, which meant that my name, the name I had worked for 4 years to attach to something real and good, was currently associated with a debt I'd never agreed to and payments that had stopped. I sat with that for a moment. My brother said, We're not asking you to cover all of it, just the cosign. The credit thing, that's almost paid off. We just need a bit more time. And if I don't, I said, what happens? My father leaned back in his chair. These lenders are serious people, he said. They look into things. They might start asking questions about your business, your lease, whether you're a stable enough operation to keep running in this location. I looked at him. They could make things complicated, he said. There was a long pause. Are you threatening me? I said. Not a question, just words spoken aloud into the room. I'm explaining the situation, he said. I stood up. I'm going to ask you to leave, I said. All three of you. I'm going to ask you to take that folder with you, and I'm going to ask you not to come back to my place of business. You're being dramatic, my mother said. I'm asking you to leave. My brother started to say something. I held up my hand. I'm not asking again, I said. The next time I ask, I'll be asking the police. They looked at each other. The kind of look families exchange when they've decided the problem is the person who's upset, not the thing that upset them. My father picked up the folder. My mother stood. My brother wouldn't look at me. They left. I stood at the consultation table for a moment after the door closed. Brit appeared in the doorway of the back room. Are you okay? She said. Can you finish the sympathy piece? I said. The lilies on the left side need to come up about 2 inches. She nodded. She knew me well enough not to push. I went into my small office at the back, barely a room really, more of a large closet with a desk, and I sat down and I opened my laptop. The first thing I did was pull up my credit report. The account was there. $12,000 limit, open March 2021. Current balance of $4,314, with a missed payment flag from 2 months prior. My name, my SIN, my credit history. The second thing I did was call my bank and report the account as fraudulent. I explained that I had not opened it, had not consented to it, and had not received any benefit from it. The woman on the phone was calm and professional. She told me the fraud investigation process and what to expect. She flagged the account immediately. The third thing I did was call the non-emergency line for Ottawa Police and ask about the process for reporting identity theft and financial fraud. The officer I spoke to was thorough. He asked a series of questions. He explained that opening a credit account in someone else's name without their consent constitutes fraud under the Criminal Code of Canada, regardless of whether payments were made. He explained what documentation I would need. I wrote everything down. The fourth thing I did, and this part took me a while because I had to sit with it before I could make myself do it, was call a lawyer. Not a family lawyer. A civil litigation lawyer whose number I had in my phone because she had done the contract review for the hotel account. I explained the situation. She told me what she thought was actionable: identity theft, fraud, and potentially extortion, given what my father had said about the lenders making things complicated with my lease. That last part, she said. Do you have that in writing or recorded? No, I said. But I have 2 witnesses. My employee was in the back. She could hear the conversation. That helps, she said. I went back out to the floor. Felix had arrived. He and Brit were finishing the sympathy arrangement. It looked exactly right, quiet and white and careful. Looks good, I said. Came out nice, Brit said. She looked at me sideways. He doing okay? I have a delivery, I said. I drove the sympathy arrangement to a home in Westboro. A woman met me at the door with red eyes and thanked me in a small voice. I told her I was sorry for her loss. I drove back to the shop. I finished the day. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table in my apartment, a real apartment, a 1-bedroom I'd signed a lease on myself, in my own name, with my own rental history, and I let myself feel all of it, the anger, the grief, which surprised me, because I thought I was past grieving for people who were still alive, the exhaustion of having to be strong and competent in the middle of something that was breaking my heart a little. But underneath all of it, something else. Something quieter. I had built something, and they had come to take from it, and I had said no, and they had left. That was a kind of ending. What happened over the next several weeks was less dramatic than you might expect. The fraud investigation confirmed the account had been opened without my authorization. The bank removed it from my credit profile and issued a corrected report. The lawyer sent a formal letter to my parents and my brother outlining the nature of the fraud and the potential for criminal charges and offering a pathway to resolution. They would repay the balance of the account, cease all contact with me personally and professionally, and sign a document acknowledging the fraudulent nature of how the account was opened. In exchange, I would not pursue criminal charges at this time. My father called me once after the letter arrived. I let it go to voicemail. "We didn't think you'd take it this far," he said. "We're family. This isn't how family handles things." I listened to it twice. Then I deleted it. My brother signed the agreement first, actually. Within a week, his lawyer apparently advised him that his exposure was significant, given that the account had been opened in his sister's name at a time when his own credit was unusable. He also had his own legal issues with the private lenders that were becoming more complicated, and the last thing he needed was a fraud charge layered on top. My parents took longer. 3 weeks. There were several letters exchanged. At one point, my mother called Maggie. I still don't know how she got her number and asked Maggie to talk to me. Maggie, to her eternal credit, said, "I think you should talk to her directly, and I think you should start with an apology," and then hung up. They signed. The balance was repaid, in installments, through the lawyer's escrow account over 4 months. The corrected credit report came back clean. The hotel contract renewed. The wedding wait list kept growing. I haven't heard from them since the agreement was signed. My brother sent one text on my birthday that just said, "Happy birthday." I read it and put my phone down and went back to what I was doing. I didn't respond. I'm not sure what I would say. I'm not sure I owe him a response. What I know is this. They came to my shop thinking I would fold, thinking that the combination of family guilt and financial threat would be enough to make me say yes to something that would have cost me everything I'd spent 4 years building. They had watched me from a distance long enough to know I had something worth threatening, but not long enough. Or maybe they just didn't care enough to understand that I was not the same person who had sat across from them at my parents' kitchen table and said I was sorry I couldn't help. I'm not sorry I couldn't help. I'm not sorry about any of it, actually. Not anymore. There's a particular Thursday morning I keep coming back to, maybe 2 months after everything settled. I was in the shop early again. I'm always in the shop early, that hasn't changed, and I was pulling ranunculus from the cooler, and I realized I hadn't thought about any of them in almost a week. Not once, not a flicker. The thing that had lived in my chest for 3 years, the low-grade ache of being cut off, the wondering if I'd done something wrong, the hoping they'd come back. It was just gone. Not dramatically. Not all at once. Just quietly. The way cold air leaves a room when you finally get the heat working. The shop was warm. The flowers smelled like early spring even though it was almost November. Britt came in and started the kettle and put on the playlist we always put on Thursday mornings, and Felix arrived exactly 3 minutes after that, the way he always does, and we opened the cooler and we started the day. That was enough. That was everything.